Well, let's go into these individual stocks and starting with Dawn, which manufactures and distributes branded hardware, sanitary ware and plumbing products. It was founded by Derek Tod in 1997. It has a market cap of 1.9 billion rand and a price to earnings ratio of 13.8, but currently pays no dividends. What do you know about Dawn? I'm sure you're going to fill us in there, Paul.
Well, this one wasn't listed in the last listing boom. It was listed quite a long time before that. And it's rolled up a number of the big brand names in the building supply industry, both within infrastructure, which is things like those big, heavy industrial plastic pipes that get made at DPI and Incledon. Then they own quite a lot of the brands in the sort of plumbing area like Safa, and then also Iska and Val in the kind of ceramic. That's toilets and baths and basins and all of that. So they actually supply the trade as well as supply some of the people who do the retailing and so on. Went through a very, very difficult and tough patch in 2008, 2009. Had to do some emergency fundraising, let me put it that way. But they now seem to be back on the mend. Certainly the year-on-year earnings increases coming through, and it's beginning to look a lot more rosy.
Francois, so they survived a tough
they
period.
survived.
They're firmly back in play, and they're not going to disappear anytime soon.
Definitely not. Another couple of brands that Dawn has is Cobra Taps, for instance, and then Libra Acrylics. They basically do also wash basins, shower basins and the like, but from acrylics. As you rightly pointed out, they had a bit of debt troubles. They're paying down a lot of that debt now, so in terms of funding, they're starting to come right now. But I'd probably want to look for a bit of a more sustained recovery from the company going forward.
Just look at the share price performance. Paul, talk us through. Also, so trouble, you were saying 2008, again, quite a severe dip in the share price, round about mid-2011.
You know, sequential earnings not being impressive. We know that companies like this, you make money both from, better earnings, but also from better sentiment. So if the market, sees negative movements on the profit and loss line, that's never a plus. The debt issues then weighing on them. But like I say, now they appear to be kind of coming out of that, and the PE is beginning to expand. So people are anticipating rising earnings. Look, I mean, they're in a powerful position because they own those brands. So a brand like Cobra, it doesn't matter to the consumer whether a Cobra tap has been made in China and has had a Cobra logo stuck on it, or if it was made up the road in Mayerton. All that matters is that it's a brand.
You are buying a Cobra tap.
That you've got some sort of sense of brand association and positives that come out of that. So this gives them the ability to mix and match with regard to imports and local manufacture and assembly in order to deal with the problems of the variability of the rand and all that kind of thing. So I like where they're positioned in the industry.
Francois, looking at their prior performance there at about 14 Rand 50, is it possible that we can go back to those levels down the line?
I think it's certainly possible. For instance, in the last year, one of their largest competitors, specifically in the acrylic space, actually went out of business because of low margins. They basically went bust. That's left a massive gap in that sector, for instance. So they can raise volumes there. They can probably raise margins as well. And that should see, for instance, a recovery in that business, which is loss-making at the moment. So if they can see a recovery in margins, which is specifically a problem that they're getting from the consumer side of the business, they'll definitely see a recovery going forward.
And remember, this is South Africa. This is not France or Spain we're talking about here, with an aging population with low rates of household formation. We know that this country has, big, positive young people growing, new households formed, housing that's being developed all the time, whether it's basic housing, which is then by those families upgraded using credit availability. So there's a big demand for this. We know people like Cashbuild have done very well over the years. All of the other retail providers, and then the bucky builders, because, the bucky builders really use these people to get the stuff and to, do the additions to the rooms, the adding of the white pipes in the wall in order to plumb in new rooms. There's a lot going on out there, and this is a great environment to be operating.
This is also linked, obviously, these are feeder companies into the broader construction space. When you see that ultimate re-rating of all the big construction companies out there, will it follow suit that you'll see an absolute re-rating across these feeder companies into that space?
I think we might actually see a re-rating in the feeder companies start before we see a re-rating in the big companies, because the big companies buy from them And only after they've completed those or before they've completed those projects, these companies start making money.
So these ones are going to benefit first from
Yes.
any improved construction space.
But the problem is the cycle is not something you can easily predict. You know, if it was just a matter of somebody ringing a bell at the bottom and at the top, investing in these kind of companies would be easy. But you never know where
I
you are.
thought you could do that for us. Just
Things
ring the
always
bell. That's
look
what you're
good at
supposed to
the
be
top,
doing.
And then, you know, you think that they still will look good and they've deteriorated already. And conversely, nobody rings a bell at the bottom either. You know, everybody's sort of still negative and then it starts to pick up. And that doesn't go in a nice, simple up to the top, down to the bottom sort of thing. We have false dawns, false starts, you know, So,
Excuse the pun there
Yeah,
on the
no,
false
exactly.
dawn. Hot or not on dawn itself.
look, it's definitely warming up. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt. We discussed it a couple of months ago. It's continued to do well since then. So I'm going to go with hot here.
Francois, hot or not?
I'd also go with hot.